Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I'm super excited to share with you a discovery that I made a few weeks ago and that I've been playing with for a couple of weeks. Because paints are a bit of an art and a science, right? Making paint is a science, and there's different ingredients that go into it. And paints have different qualities because of the way they're manufactured and produced and the ingredients that go into the paint. So I have this set of Artist Loft's watercolors. They're cakes. They come in this 36 color palette. It's so beautiful. You've probably seen a lot of people on YouTube using these. They were really hot a few years ago. They still sell them. They still sell a lot of them. I see them all the time in the store and I see people picking them up. They're really affordable and they're just gorgeous to look at. I mean, it's like eye candy. They're just beautiful colors. They're highly pigmented. And they're only like $5.99. When I got them with a 50% off coupon, and they were $5 at that time because I got these like 3 years ago. So I actually paid $2.50 for this, which is insane. That is so cheap for these amount of colors and such pigmented colors. I found out once I got them that they were a bit not great. They were very chalky and just not great to work with. I couldn't get any of the watercolor effects that I was seeing other people on YouTube using and making like beautiful paintings with. I tried and it just didn't work out. I didn't understand why. I learned more as I learned more about watercolor. I realized my paints were not the right paints. So I decided to do a little experiment to see if I could make these paints better than they were. So this is the original swatch. Just water. I just use water. I put like a little rectangle of water and I put paint on the top half of the rectangle and I let it bleed. As you can see, some of them moved around, some of them didn't. Like these, it just stayed put. They're super opaque. I mean, I put a black Sharpie line before I swatched. Super opaque. Very hard to work with. Super chalky. Some of these I couldn't even tell what the colors were. Like this one, I was like, what is that? Is that a sepia? Is that a gray? I don't know. And then after I did my little experiment, I turned those watercolors into this. Transparent. They disperse. They're still very vibrant, but they're not opaque or as opaque as they used to be. That gray color, look at that gray color. You can tell it's actual gray. It's not a muddy, chalky mess like this one. Look at how the transparency of this brown color went from completely opaque to somewhat opaque. Some of these colors, like this violet color, the hue changed. This was a lot whiter, muted. This is so much more vibrant. So these paints, the characteristics of them change completely. And now I'm able to actually paint with these. I've been wanting to paint with these because they're so cute, but I haven't been able to because I couldn't get the results that I wanted. So I'm gonna show you what I did and how to do it yourself to go from this to this. So you can actually, if you want, actually use your cheap watercolor paints in a better way, and you can actually get some use of them rather than throwing them out or giving them to someone else. So first I should say that if you're starting out with a cheap set of watercolors, the more pigmented the better, because we're going to add additional ingredients which are going to dilute the color a bit. Even though here, because I added not a huge amount of these solution to fix these, they're still super vibrant. Actually, I would say they're even more vibrant than originally. So a few years ago, I started learning how to make paints. I was just curious about how to make my own paints. And I learned how to make what is called a vehicle solution. So a vehicle solution would be the vehicle for the pigments to actually like move around the paper, right? So different vehicle solutions make different paints. If you want acrylic paints, you would have an acrylic vehicle solution. If you want watercolor paints, you would use a water-soluble vehicle solution. So gum arabic is the main binder ingredient in watercolors. So literally, this is just like a little recipe. Super simple. I know this might seem complicated to some people who don't know how to make paints yet, but just literally take a screenshot of this. And if you want to find those ingredients, you can Google them, go to Amazon. I can put a few links below to help you out. I basically use gum arabic, which is basically the sap of a tree called the acacia tree. They sell this stuff already made, so you don't have to actually mix 1 part gum arabic, 2 parts water. You can just buy it pre-made in any art store or most art stores. I made my own. So I basically got like crystals of gum arabic and I dissolved them in water. Slightly cheaper than buying it already made. Glycerin. Glycerin you can find in any pharmacy, basically. It's not very expensive. Then some honey in your pantry. Just get some honey, regular honey. Ox Gall. Ox Gall is a dispersant, so that is a bit of a harder ingredient to find. Ox Gall helps the paint move around the paper. It really makes the watercolors come alive, and it makes wet on wet techniques possible. So I got this. This is a solid version of Ox Gall. It's made by Lucas Aquarel. This is synthetic Ox Gall. So regular Ox Gall is not vegan. It's made with animal products. This one is vegan. It's synthetic. You can just dissolve it with like some water and a brush, put a few drops in your mix, and then you can add tea tree oil or clove oil as an antibacterial to avoid like mildew and things like that. So you literally just mix all of these into a little bottle. I just mixed it into here. And what I do is I take this solution, I put 1 drop in a palette in each well. This is a dropper with just water. This is clear water, just tap water. I put 2 drops of water in each. And then I take my palette and I mix some paint. So I literally just like grab some paint, just make the cake wet, let it dissolve, and then just mix it in the palette. And then I would use this to paint. And that's it. That's all you have to do. So I'm going to show you some before and after paintings that I made with these. And so you can see the difference. Do you see? The bottom one is without the solution. So this is straight water. I didn't change anything. I used this straight out of the cake. It's very opaque. You can see that this tree, for example, how opaque it is. Then I put the watercolor vehicle solution. You can see how much transparent it is, how you can see the trees in the background. It's very different. It's much more translucent. And the colors come across so much better. It looks like watercolor versus looking like some sort of wash. This is another example. This is like some peonies and flowers. This one has the solution, this one doesn't. You can see how the paint kind of moved around here, and it's a lot more translucent than here. It's a more opaque and kind of more dull, less vibrant. Here's another comparison for these paints with and without the solution. These are swatches of the paints with straight water, no solution. This has the solution. In addition, the fact that you can see the difference. Don't look at this middle one, and excuse my finger, I cut it the other day while I was cooking. This is a different experiment that I was doing that didn't go well, but I wanted to show you when you like rub these, which is one of the things that really drives me crazy about these paints when I try to use them straight, is the fact that it rubs on your finger. They're so chalky, and there's like, I don't know if there's no binder there or the binder is really terrible, but it literally just rubs off on the paper. Let me see if I can focus here. It rubs off on the paper and it's terrible. Also, if you're using a sketchbook and you're painting with these, the page that's like on the opposite side will get also paint on it, which is super annoying, even if it's dry. Now with the solution, I can, and excuse my shaky camera because it's attached to my desk. I can try to rub it as hard as possible, and you can see that like barely nothing moved, and my finger, it's clean. So that's super important, because when you paint, you don't want your painting to get damaged after the fact. Another thing I wanted to show you with these paints are how it changes, how their behavior changes wet on wet. So I basically made a rectangle of water basically with my brush, and I put drops of the paint without the vehicle solution. So you can see the paint just stays there. It just literally just doesn't move. I made also like 2 rectangles of wet paint, very wet paint. They kind of mix in the middle a little bit, but you can kind of see the brush strokes, and it didn't really mix into one another. So with the vehicle solution, when I put these drops, they just just moved around the water, and they covered the entire rectangle. Same here, when I put the 2 kind of wet rectangles of paint together, they just moved around and mixed, and it gave it this really fun character and like unexpected watercolor effects that it's one of the things I love about watercolor. Now this is Canson XL paper. This is student grade paper. So when you actually use cotton paper where the paints actually soak in, you'll see even better results. So I'm gonna show you, I painted this with those paints and the vehicle solution on Strathmore 500, 100% cotton watercolor paper. I would not be able to paint something like this with these paints if it wasn't for this vehicle solution. I was able to do different effects, wet on wet, and just, it looks translucent, it looks beautiful, it looks like it's supposed to look. I made another test here to test for layering, to see how they layer after the vehicle solution. And that is one of the shortcomings of this vehicle solution. So when I layered the petals here, even though the bottom petals were completely dry, or I thought they were, they still kind of dissolved a little bit. So with the vehicle solution, I found that layering is not great. It is more translucent and more beautiful, but you have to keep that in mind. All paints have different characteristics. So in this case, this would be a shortcoming for these, but you can still make beautiful art with this. You don't have to throw it away. You can use, make good use of your art materials. I would hate to just leave it sitting there for years and continue to not use it. Now I've been able to play with this so much and have so much fun with it that I am just so inspired to use this for different things now. And they would be great for practicing strokes. They'd be great for making greeting cards, for journaling or sketching. They're definitely not light fast, so I wouldn't use it for anything, that I want to last a long time. But I mean, it's better than not being able to use them. I know it's not super cheap to buy all of these materials, but I enjoy the process of discovering, experimenting, finding out how things work. I am an engineer. Actually, that's what I studied, so I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to this stuff. So I hope this was useful. I hope you learned something about, I guess, paint making, or how to just not be captive to your paints or your materials characteristic, that you can do certain things sometimes to improve the quality of your materials. That's not always the case, but in this case, I thought it was very refreshing, and I was super excited to find out that I could make these paints better. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did and you want to see more, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe below. And I hope to see you in my next video. Bye-bye.